The other day I shared a bunch of tips for making die cuts like these little witches easier, but now I have these witches and they need to go on a card. And I have a bunch more 6x8 spooky pattern paper. Hi, I'm Jess from JessCrafts.com, and I'm here to help you make the most of your crafty time and supplies. So let's make another 6x8 no scrap card.
We've already made one card with the spooky patterned collection from scrapbook.com. It's a 6x8 paper pad. We're gonna make a few more. We're just gonna make 2 today, but this is 6x8 paper busting template number 17, which means there are 16 others available at jesscrafts.com. And if you'd like to save some time and just download it all at once, you can also purchase numbers 1 through 20 in the Etsy shop, and then you'll kind of get a sneak peek at the next couple that I will be sharing. So I'm going to follow this template here that tells me how to cut the pattern paper, and then the sketch that tells me how to assemble it with no pattern paper scraps. I am going to add some cardstock mats, and that will create scraps, but as I've always talked about in the past, it is so much easier for me to deal with pattern paper scraps than it is pattern papers or cardstock scraps than pattern paper scraps. I think you know what I was talking about. All right, so we're going to cut it to 3x8. And each of these is going to create one of the 2 cards. This does work with directional pattern paper, which I do have today. Then I'm going to cut it to 3x4. So I have 2 pieces of 3x4 for each card. The top one, or one of them, sorry, I'm going to cut down at 1-inch increments. So 1x4, then 1x4. The other one I'm going to cut to a 3x3 square and a 3x1-inch strip. As you are cutting your pattern paper, you may want to consider like what side you're going to be using, whether or not like you're framing up the most interesting piece. So if you're going to use this as like your main focal panel. Now, what I am going to do with this sketch is part of it, of this 3x3-inch piece, is going to be covered here with this the back side, which in this case is solid pink, and there's going to be the 3 stripes across, and I'm kind of trying to decide whether I want them to be in the solid pink or if I want to add the pattern, since that is one of the, like, I really think this pattern's fun and it's going to give me a way of adding more of it to my card. And part of the way I'm going to determine that is just by lining it up and looking at like what would be showing. So in this case, I am going to get this whole strip. I did line them up such that like they were the way that I cut them apart. I'm going to cut some mats for this. I am going to cut them 1/4 inch bigger. So for my 1-inch by 4-inch strips, I am going to be cutting 4 1/4 by 1 1/4. And I do that 3 separate times. I'm actually measuring the other way, so instead of bringing it to the 1/4 inch mark each time, I multiplied 1/4 by 3, and then I cut backwards. I personally find that easier, certainly not for everyone. And then that will be there, but there's this 3-inch piece, and then this 1x3, it does say in the sketch to cut a mat. I'm going to forego that because my other side of my pattern paper is a solid paper, and that way it covers up a little bit less of this fun design that I have here. So I'll just cut a 3 1/4 by 3 1/4 inch square and put it here. The reason that I'm choosing black today is because I think it will provide like a really high contrast with this busy paper, help calm it down. You can use something like a grid mat or a piece of grid paper to help you to make sure these are evenly spaced in between. They are going to meet up with the tops, bottoms, and edges, like the top, bottom, and the edge of the paper here, and then be evenly spaced. If for whatever reason your card base is a little bit shorter or longer than your pieces, even though they should both be 4 1/4, technically there's always just like a little bit of room for error in measurements, I would just tape them all on and then trim it off universally. Then the sketch tells me to take this piece here, and it hangs over the edge a little bit here. You can probably just tape that down, but if you do find that that like little bit of bump over kind of bothers you, really want to smooth things out, you can also take a piece of scrap cardstock, which I should probably cut because it's kind of thick, so tearing it's not working as well, and just kind of tuck it underneath there, and then that will make that whole panel smooth. This spooky stamp set also came in one of the bundles with the smaller paper pad. There was a bundle with the witch. I think she was separate than the stamp set. They're kind of all getting mixed up in my head right now, but I wanted to use it because I haven't yet. And I really like the happy spooky season. That was one of the reasons that I was convinced to pick up this stamp set, but it's not going to fit in this space. And I do appreciate with clear stamps, there's like no question about that. Like I could technically squeeze it in there, but then I'm like putting my witch really off to the side. She would be like over here and she would just kind of feel lost a little bit. So I think I'm going to let her be a little bit more the star of a show and go with a smaller sentiment. Like do a little bit of surgery here on the Beautiful Blessings stamp set and cut it apart so that I can fit it into this space. It didn't fit as a longer sentiment. The Hey Pumpkin or the Trick or Treat would have fit. And the Hey Pumpkin would have been fine. I mean, there's certainly pumpkins on my pattern paper, no question. But I felt like it would make more sense if a pumpkin were like the focal point. Personally, do not like to put Trick or Treat on my cards, as they are often going to children who... A lot of the organizations serve children who are hospitalized, which means that they're probably not going trick-or-treating, or they're doing some kind of trick-or-treating there. And to me, it could be a reminder of something that they're missing out on in the moment. And so I just kind of want to keep it in like a more fun space. I don't know if that's a little bit overthinking it, but that's why I tend to avoid it. So I went with the Beautiful Blessings stamp, and I'll make this whole card again with the second half of the pattern paper and probably pop her up with a little bit of foam tape, or in my case, fake foam tape, where I just take some scraps of cardstock and stack them up behind it. If you are going to donate your cards, you might be wondering what you would put inside of them. And at jesscrafts.com, I have jokes for many, many topics, including all of the major holidays, and so you can print those completely free. You don't even have to enter your email address. And I also on my Etsy shop have these printable little like activities that you can do. I think they're particularly fun for Halloween, so like word searches or acrostic poems, like the dots and boxes game, mazes, all that, as you could put like a little treat, a little color by number. These are the portrait versions. Every time you purchase one, you get both the portrait and landscape version, so I need to print out my landscape ones to go inside of this particular card, but that's always an option. If you found this video helpful, here's another video where you can find more ideas for enjoying your crafty time and supplies. Let me know you like this card with that, share to your crafty community, subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss the next template or tutorial, and check the video description for product links. See you in the next video.